It's been a while. Been a while, hasn't it?
So we'll start with you when you're ready. Hi Sam.
How you doing?
Can you talk us through the last couple of days? What was your reaction when you got the call from Leeds United? And can you sum up your emotions driving into the training ground this morning? Have you missed it?
Wouldn't be if I hadn't missed it. I think that it was a shock because this time of the season and as many managers that had changed hands, which was the biggest amount of managers ever in the history of the Premier League, I thought, well, it's all over now for this season. So to get the call was quite surprising, of course, but it was only a couple of minutes before I said yes. So, and then obviously, because of the situation, was to rush through as quick as we possibly could the entire process, so I could be here for at least a reasonable lead into Manchester City. Obviously, I've had a lot of response from many people who I know have sent in their congratulations, and a few have said I must be mad. But I enjoyed the game so much, and to try and be able to save this club and put it back and keep it in the Premier League is a big responsibility, and a big challenge, but one I was prepared to take because of who Leeds United are.
You met the players, you've taken your first training session. What's been your key message and how have they reacted? And with 4 games to go, does that give you enough time? And is this your biggest challenge?
It's probably the biggest challenge because of the shortness of games that are left. I think that there needs to be points picked up, and the difficulty is this. You look at this fixtures. We start with an easy one on Saturday, and can't get any easier than Manchester City away, can it? But it's a big challenge. It is a big challenge that the players have to take on. I have to take on, and obviously Robbie, Carl Robinson coming with me, and today obviously Robbie Keane's joined us. So I've got a bit. I don't know the rest of the staff, but I've got these lads who I've known for a long time, who I trust, and hopefully the rest of the staff take the responsibility on board to produce a better performance on and off the field, to help the players to do that. So we'll try and go to Manchester City and do our best to get a result. And I can only wait and see what the reaction is when we kick off on Saturday afternoon. But my main aim is, of course, I don't really think there's too much of a problem with Leeds in possession, but it is a massive problem when they haven't got it because of the amount of goals they've conceded. So if we are to stay in the Premier League, they need to stop conceding goals like they concede, and that's a part of the big job in the next 4 games, that the players being able to cope without out of possession, to not allow the opposition to score so easily.
How do you go about changing that in such a short space of time?
Bringing a little bit more confidence and setting a sort of pattern of play, a style of play, a system of play, whatever you want to call it, to say this is the way you stop the opposition. And if you can do that, you can get more possession. By stopping the opposition, you can get more possession higher up the field. By stopping the opposition, so you can get more opportunities to attack the opposition. So you get 2 benefits. The first benefit is to stop the goals going in. The second benefit is you might get more opportunities to score goals. So, Manchester City are where they are because they're the best defence and the best attacking team in the league. But, we've got to try and do whatever we possibly can. And it has been done. Brentford did it. Brentford won. So shocks happen. Whether it'll happen on Saturday, who knows?
I sense of positivity about you already and an excitement. Is a big part of your job to lift the mood over the next few days?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think that I've had a meeting with the players and I've had a meeting with the committee of players. We've had our training session and our communication on how they see it and what we've seen and what we've heard to come together to make it better. I think that's a positive day. So there's been as much positivity off the pitch than there has been on the training ground by asking players to air what they think will help us get better. And we can only ask the question and then deal with it when they answer the way they've answered and try and put into place things to give them an opportunity to enjoy coming into the training ground and enjoy training and then enjoy playing football. But obviously the only enjoyment they get at the end of the day is if you get a result.
Thanks, Sam. Good luck.
Hey, Sam. What have you seen in the squad today then that makes you think they can survive? Because recent performances suggest they can't.
I've seen a quite a positive attitude. I would have expected a little bit more miserable than what they were, or what they seemed. So collectively, they seem quite good together. Your first impressions are that they are desperate to do better, and that of course needs a bit of support and a bit of guidance and breeding a bit of confidence into the fact that the player will build himself up for the game on Saturday and go out and give that little bit more. And obviously, technically and tactically, we haven't got into that much. That'll happen in the next 2 days, which will be a part of the. As a new manager, you would expect that. Generally, as a new manager, you expect that little bit more from the players than had happened before. Seems to be go along with the territory that you get a new manager and they seem to lift the performance because it's a new manager. Not that the manager's done anything really brilliant, because if a manager tells you as he's lying to you, you come in and they think, I need to impress my manager to keep me players. So, and of course Manchester City will make them give that a bit more because they don't want to embarrass themselves. So we'll just wait and see. My influence will be over day in and day out, continuously driving the right things and driving the right training sessions and mentally looking at the pack and saying who is struggling with confidence, who isn't, who can we build up more, who do we need to support more, and when they go on the field, make them feel better.
Sam, Carl Robinson, who's on your staff, and Robbie Keane, what will they particularly bring over these next 4 games or so? And I know Carl is quite interested in sports psychology. Is that something you're looking at now with the players?
We have a sports psychologist here, actually. So psychology is obviously a massive part of my life, of course, which I've used a great deal personally. So I'm a big supporter of it, and it's there if the player wants it. So it's here if the player wants it. You can't force it on a player. They just need to know that they're there, and hopefully, if that's the case, it helps them get stronger. You're not a weak person if you seek out a sports psychologist. You're a very strong person to want to put any psychological fears behind you and get yourself in the right frame of mind, like you mean. So we have a sports psychologist here, which is a pleasant surprise for me.
And Robbie Keane in particular then, what qualities will he bring for you?
Well, trying to shut him up in the first place is the first thing. Like, I mean, he never stops talking. But I mean, I've known Robbie for quite a while, and we talked on many occasions about his getting into coaching and about the fact that worked with him at Soccer Aid a few times and all that. So I really liked his personality and and obviously is in my mind to come in and give everybody a lift, not just by his coaching methods for the front men particularly, and the strikers, because obviously goals are very important, but also the fact that, you know, he's Leeds through and through, and he loves the place.
Finally, for me, Sam, too, lots been talked about your deal. Is this just 4 matches, or would you reconsider at the end if it goes well?
Never say never, and it depends what happens at the end of the 4 matches, and what the conversation's all about, like you mean, and how I feel, and more importantly, how the wife feels.
Thank you.
Because I can't keep making feel so nervous again as I've done, like you mean. So there we go.
Thank you.
She's good as gold.
Damien? Hello, Sam. In your heart of hearts, did you always imagine you'd get back to a big Premier League club, or are you resigned to perhaps calling it a day?
I think that I think that always the club would make the difference on whether I took it or not, and this is and has been in my time, which is a long time, always been a club. Even though it's been out of the Premier League far too long, but I always known the history of the club and the fact I used to play here, you know, against Alan Clark and people like that, you know, and it was always been a pleasure to play at Ellen Road, like you mean. So when you get the opportunity to manage it, then for me, you jump at the chance, even though it's only 4 games. I'd have liked it to have been a bit longer, but it wasn't to be. But here I am, and it's an hard challenge, like you said, but somebody had to do it, and I think I was the first one they asked, so they didn't have to ask anybody else.
No Sammy Lee by your side this time. Is that a big miss?
Not with Carl, but I do have to say, I'm not sure this is a good thing, but I have to say it. The judge has left Sammy unemployed because he's on jury service and wouldn't let him off. And I find that to be very, very poor judgment indeed. So, you know, it's a real shame, because the wee man loves being with me, and I love him with me, but I've known Carl for a long time with my Blackburn days, and I've always kept in touch with him since he left, and we've never stopped talking. We never talk, because when we're both managers, we talk about the good, the bad and the ugly, like you mean, and I've always been there to help if I possibly can. So when Sammy became a no, and everything had to move very, very quickly, so I couldn't give anybody a long period of time to think about it. It was a phone call. Is it a yes or is it a no? Can I think about it? Yeah, you've got half an hour. So Carl came here in half an hour, and Robbie came here. And it's rang Robbie this morning. He's here already with his bag packed.
Sam, you said you thought that the chance had gone for this season, but do you actively, as a manager who's looking at getting back in, are you watching teams and analysing what you might do with them if you got the chance to get hold of them?
I'm only interested in what's happening here, and only will be interested in what's here, because it does consume your time 24/7. I have so much to go through, previous games, what's happened in previous games, what the stats look like, how did they do the free kicks, how many goals have they conceded, why have they conceded those goals, where can we improve in those areas. So there's a lot of, me and Carl particularly, and the lads who are all analysis to go through to try and drum up as many alternatives to how we try and get better in each department. So I always say to players, it's not a great deal of improvement that you need. So if everybody improved by 2%, that'd be 22% improvement in the team, which is massive. So 1 or 2% better than they've already been will make a big difference.
What are the strengths of the squad that you inherit? And given the limited time you've got,
I don't really know till I get to the end of today and into tomorrow. Apart from the fact that I am, like I've said before, comfortable in possession, seem to be able to handle the ball and attack, but don't in recent weeks. Probably one of the worst defensive records in the Premier League over the last 10 games. So my call to those players is to be able to be more adaptable. Now maybe that was not the previous manager's way of working. Who knows? Maybe he had one way of playing and only wanted to play that way. I have to try and form a pattern of play for each game to help the players win, and that can't be by only playing the same way every game, because not every team plays against you the same way. So if you think you can get away with, when you're struggling, playing the same way every week, that's why I've saved so many football clubs, because the adaptability of the team has allowed them to achieve results. For instance, there's a few northeasters here today, isn't there? Yeah, good lads. Sunderland, Chelsea 3-2, Everton 3-0, Watford 1-1 last 3 games. We didn't win the first 2. We'd have had to win the last one to stay up. So the games were big. Chelsea was not expected, Everton wasn't expected, but we won those 2 games, and so that was by the support of the Sunderland supporters and the belief of the players at the time that they could go out and do it. And I don't think we did. I mean, they'll know better than me now because it's been a long time since I was there. How long were we ever at the bottom 4, 5? Don't think we were. So it took us the last 3 games to get out the bottom 3 and survive. So this is one of those. You know, Crystal Palace was the same. Beat Chelsea away 2-1. Beat Liverpool away 2-0. Beat Arsenal at home 3-0. Without those, we wouldn't have stayed up. So when I look at these 4 fixtures and everybody says, wow, aren't they big? Yes, they are. They're massive. The odds are against us. Obviously, we've done, or the teams I've had before have done it, but I'd always spent a lot more time with them than I am now, which is obviously one of the worrying factors.
Jonathan? Sam, Leeds have conceded 23 goals in the space of a month, which is a Premier League record. How do you go about changing that in such a short period of time?
Showing them. Brave enough to put it in front of them and say, this is what you've done, this is how we put it right. So we can talk about that visually, and then we can do it on the training ground. Like I said, the opportunity to work today, tomorrow and Friday, without forgetting what they do when they've got possession. But they have to be better out of possession on Saturday than they are in possession, because they won't be in possession as much as Manchester City. That's a fact. So we have to be the best we can possibly be out of possession, which will actually give us a better chance of gaining more possession than we would do normally, and attack Manchester City.
I think it's fair to say that not all Leeds fans were expecting your appointment. Do you have a message for them, particularly after recent results, to get behind the team?
Well, the team's no good without him. I think that you know, it's always a telling factor that generally home form is the best form of the team that you have, and the support of the home fans gets the hairs standing up on your arms and on the back of your neck, gets you tingling and ready to go out. You know, what I have to do is just install the confidence in the players to entertain the fans so much to cheer them on, because we have to give them something to cheer. We can't just expect them to do it. We have to give them something on the pitch that wants them to get behind the team.
Hi Sam. Talking of the fans there, I've been speaking to fans this morning, and what a lot of them have actually said is, if anyone can do it, you can. How do you feel about that level of expectation?
Oh, I just give them all the best shot I possibly can on the fact that if experience means anything, then I've got an opportunity to pass that experience on to show them how to do it, and hopefully, if they can grasp as much of that as they can and improve the performances and give a bit more effort, like I said, and increase their own performances by 1 or 2%, we'll have a chance. Whether that will be enough or not, only time will tell. But you know, I want to see an increased level of performance in 4 football matches, and I can't. That's a fine, by the way. £10 to charity. Who is it? Who is it? Thank you very much. Which charity have we got here? Which is the local charity?
Leeds United Foundation.
Leeds United Foundation. Thank you very much. Sorry, can you? I've gone off the question now. Sorry.
I know it was touched on earlier, but I just wanted to ask about Saturday. How are you feeling about such a big game being eased into the job in this way?
Oh, I wish it was a bit more, a bit less challenging. But we have to face what we have to face, and obviously, the first thing I did after I looked at the job and looked at the fixture and thought, well, they could have been a little bit kinder. But if we are to stay up, like I said before, sometimes it has to be done, and you have to create a shock in the Premier League, and so hopefully we can shock a few people in the Premier League by getting the results, so we need to stay up. I hope that we can find 6 points in 4, because I think that would be a really good achievement.
Graeme?
Hi Sam, have you ever come close to this job previously, or felt like you might have had a chance here previously?
Well, in the highlight of this year, when they've had their troubles, they've always known where I am, but it's never materialised until now, like you mean. So I think that you know, the football club chooses which way it wants to go, and far too many people think that I am old and antiquated, which is so far from the truth. I might be 68 and look old, but there's nobody ahead of me in football terms. Not Pep, not Klopp, not Arteta. So it's all there with me, and I share it with them. They do what they do. I do what I do. But in terms of knowledge and depth of knowledge, I'm up there with them. I'm not saying I'm better than them, but certainly as good as they are. I just wish that sometimes you can get the opportunity that you can show it, but that's never going to happen for me now, apart from keep Leeds up. And if I stayed at Leeds, this club was big enough to build a team that was going to challenge those boys eventually. But that's a long story away.
Are there any players in the squad that you particularly admire over the last couple of seasons, or that you think would really work for you?
Well, I want Patrick Bamford to be on top form, because I think he's a key player in terms of as holding the ball up and us being able to get up the pitch, and him to score goals, to give him the opportunity to score goals. So hopefully he stays fit and he becomes a key player. Like I said, collectively, the goalie and the back four are the first priority, and then the midfield players in front of them protecting the back four as much as they can. You can't just ask the back four to keep defending on their own, which is what's happened in the last few games and why they conceded so many.
Hi Sam. You spoke to the players today. What was your message to them? What did you say when you stood in for the first time?
Let's try and find a way of improving the results as quick as we can, and let's have a meeting on every basis with the committee, particularly that they can give have their opportunity to talk about what we might need to change and how we might need to change it, and then for me to say to them what we need to do together too, because every member of staff here has a responsibility to improve their working day and their working week, because they work to provide the players with the best possible support to play the best. So they have a small part to play in the decline of results. But obviously, if the previous manager maybe had restricted them, then they might not have been able to do as much as they perhaps wanted to. I don't know. I haven't asked that question because it's not important to me. What's important to me is they're qualified to do the job, and they do the job to their best ability. Now, if they won't do the job to their best ability, even within this 4-week period, then I'll find out and I'll do something about it. But hopefully they are, because I don't want to lose anybody, because I need everybody pulling in the right direction.
When you did sit down with the likes of Liam Cooper, Luke Ayling, what was their feedback to you? You sat down with the leadership committee.
I can't tell you that because that's personal and it's private. I think that, but I mean, my key area, of course, first and foremost, for coming in, was obviously look at previous games and all that, but look at the injury list, and hopefully the injury list is not too big. We have some niggles and some players missed training today. We won't know till later on in the week if some will make it. One or two might not, but if we can keep the squad fully fit for the entire period, then it gives us a better chance of survival.
Thank you.
Stuart?
Hi, Sam. You mentioned you disappointed that it's taken so long this season for you to get back into the job. Were there any calls, any jobs you rejected, and how do you sort of prepare yourself just in case the call comes?
I think that I wouldn't say I was disappointed. I would say that one or two, but they weren't in this country, came, and I didn't want to do them. But I sort of resigned myself for this season. Like I said, that all changes had been made, and that would be next season if anything really particularly happened. But I was at the stage of my life and career where I wasn't actively looking for a job. But obviously, you know, having talked about retirement before and making a fool of myself by coming back, I thought I'd never say never again. So here I am.
And as you sort of alluded to with Graeme, you're very into the sort of scientific sides of the game and all that sort of thing.
Well, I'll just give you a big headline, haven't you? And you'd like one to start with, look, I'm as good as Pep, you know, big, Sam's as good as Pep, Sam's as good as Klopp, woo, 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 woo. I can see it all tomorrow, like you mean. So that would be wonderful.
Okay, I mean, can those sort of methods take hold in 4 weeks, or do you have to operate slightly differently?
It all depends on the intelligence of the player and how good his memory is, because there's enough, and then there's not enough, and then there's too much, and so I've got it the middle perspective. Because if I start changing all the free kicks and all the corners, and then all the system, and then that'll just create more confusion. So it's a little bit of everything. Does you good? Did they say? Where was that? Was that a song somewhere? So it's a little bit of it each to try and help it to get better, and not be too much.
Is it difficult, Sam, coming back in cold? Because your life goes to 100 miles an hour straight away when you come back into this, and it's been 2 years since your last job. How do you do that?
It's the adrenaline when you walk in, and it's got it at 7:30 this morning with Carl, and not like he's been at Oxford, like you mean, and got harshly treated in the end for what a magnificent job he did, and I think that it's the first time he's been back in a Premier League club, which was with me at Blackburn, like you mean. So you look at this facility, particularly the pitches, and say, wow, here we are, like you mean. We're back at the big time, which it is. It's the biggest league in the world. I know it's a difficult job, but it is a great place to be. And even though the players might be a bit down, and you're using your knowledge and your love for the game to try and help them, and there's nothing more rewarding than that. There is, obviously, giving your wife giving birth to your kids and so on and so forth, but you know, in football terms, there's not a lot better.
You sound very confident about your ability to make an impact on the players, but it's hard to tell if you're confident about doing enough in the last 4 games. Do you feel that, or would it be difficult?
I just can't, it's just too early to tell at the moment. All I can do is hope for the right reaction. The right reaction on Saturday would be for the players to come off and me to be satisfied with everything they've done and tried to do. Because sometimes we could play our very best game of the season but not do anything against Manchester City because they're so good. So we could play our best game. We could defend the best way we could, better than we've defended all season. We can attack as often as we possibly could. With the possession, and we still could lose because they're that good. So we have to hope that they're not quite on song, and we have to be able to capitalise on one, defending correctly, and two, if we get any chances, making sure we convert them, and that could give us hopefully a chance on the day.
Phil, can you pass to Oscar if that's all right? Thank you.
Sam, you're saying far too many people think that you're old and antiquated. Does that spur you on still? Proving people wrong?
I don't really bother with too much, like you mean, but I think that people are bound to think that when you get older, aren't they? Like you mean. I mean, I must admit, I thought that when I was in my late 30s, thinking, why is that old and got a job and not me? So I can't complain too much because I used to be like that when I was trying to get in, like you mean. But you know, there's two things in the game. There's ideas, and then there's experience and knowledge, and then there's staying ahead of the game. So you know, the staying ahead of the game was big part of my life in the early 2000s, and looking at all of them doing what we used to do then, starting in 99, 2000. Nothing that much has changed in playing, training and player terms. What has changed is algorithms and AI, and that's always been the way forward in football as well as life. And the better you can use AI, artificial intelligence and algorithms, the better chance you've got of improving your team, because everything is about recruitment. If you've got the right manager and you've got the right coaches and you've got the right physios and if you don't recruit well, you lose your job. Certainly the manager does, or the head coach. So recruitment is like all about how successful will you be, and some clubs have messed it up and some clubs haven't.
You mentioned you like more time to do this job. Did you want the job back in February after Jesse was sacked?
Well, if they, I think I answered that. If they'd have rang, I'd have said yes, wouldn't I? Obviously, but if I said yes after 4 games to go, I think it might have been easier. It'd have been an easier yes if there were 12s, wouldn't it? You know what I mean?
Ross?
Hi Sam, you look at what Roy Hodgson's done, been unbelievable.
Don't ask me to win 4 on the trot, please.
I was just saying, in terms of Roy Hodgson 75, Neil Warnock 74, they look like they're both going to achieve great success. I just wondered if you've possibly been inspired by what those lads have done, perhaps.
I think it's not. I think it's nice that we're. I mean, Roy got so much stick by some of the Palace fans. I was surprised about that, because you know, it is such a great job in his period that we're there, and then coming back. I mean, I think one of the journos, can't remember, was it on Sky talkSPORT, said he's going to throw his season ticket back because they've re-employed Roy, like you mean, and there's a few negative thoughts about them. But he didn't shut him up, did he? They all think he's the best thing since sliced bread again now. So he's probably excited him that much he'll carry on next season. Who knows? But experience it's sometimes in our game. It has ebbs and flows. Sometimes it's a young factor. If the young factor fails, they turn to experience. Then experience is taken over by the young factor again, and then so on. It goes in swings and roundabouts, and depends where you are when it changes on whether you get employed again, I suppose.
You were saying, obviously, never say never beyond this season, but if it does go well, Leeds United still in the Premier League, you know, how big of a sort of carrot would that be to stay and to rebuild the club beyond this season potentially?
Well, I wouldn't commit to that. I wouldn't commit to anything at the moment, but I'd say that a lot depends on the most important thing I said in the last answer, and that's recruitment. Recruitment would be who are and what are the players coming in and how good are they? Because if we stay up this year, it's obviously clear that the squad would need strengthening, and if I stayed on, I wouldn't want to be in a relegation dogfight from the very start, personally.
Well, you say you want adaptable teams and for different scenarios. Do you already have those plans in your head for what you've seen at Leeds this season and the game you've got ahead?
I think that it's obviously a plan for Manchester City, which we talked about at great length, me and Carl yesterday, because Carl's watched an awful lot of football since he lost his job at Oxford. So I've watched an awful lot of football under no pressure and can see the difficulties teams have, and can see that some teams are flourishing. So you look at those situations and you say, what are you doing and how are you going about it? So we are doing what we're doing and hopefully getting the best. But just to get the best out of the players is the most important thing now.
Dermot.
Hi Sam, would this be your greatest achievement in management if you kept them up?
I think from the Great Escape point of view, yeah, I think that would be, because it's only 4 games to do it, and we have to try and get a couple of wins if we can. I think if we get a couple of wins, it might be enough, because 36 has been enough recently over the last few years. But then again, it's no guarantee. We just need to get them, and then if that's not enough, there's nothing else we can do unless we've got 3 wins instead of 2, or 7, or 2 wins and a draw, maybe enough. Who knows? We don't know yet. So I know we've got as tough a run in as anybody else. So we have to try and pull off a surprise result. A surprise win from somewhere. Because I don't think anybody outside of Leeds expects us to win any of the next 4 games.
Your goalkeeper's been struggling recently. Confidence as well. Is that a position you could look at and change?
Well, when we have a conversation, I think we would reveal it, and that based on what he says to me and what I feel would be help me make the decision going forward. So I think it's not difficult to see that unfortunately he's made mistakes and they've cost a couple of goals. So right at the wrong time for the team. So, the most important position is there if we're going to stop the goals going in, because we're not going to stop every shot. So, whether it's right for me to keep him in and hope he overcomes his and has a big game and gets back to what we know he can be, because I always thought he was a magnificent goalie considering how young he was from the start. So. We'll wait and see. We make that decision on Friday, probably.
Hi Sam. What did your wife and family say to you when you said you'd been offered the Leeds job?
Well, my daughter says, how many tickets can we get for Man City? So she's all right. My son says, my knee will be shaking all the time, but in saying that, I'm playing my last game as manager for Tutton, so he's manager of Tutton team, amateur team in Bolton, so his mind will be distracted, and the wife will shut herself off in the bedroom and watch Cheshire Housewives, and nobody's to ring her or text her till the game's over, so she gets that nervous.
And
They get more nervous than me. I mean, I get nervous, but I'm obviously in control. They're just hoping and praying that we're going to get the right result because they know how important it is to me. I know it's important bit all my life, like I mean.
And aside from the good humour, does there remain that sense of frustration that another big club has come for you very late in the day rather than the beginning of the programme?
Not really. I mean, I didn't expect it. I mean, I'm sort of surprised I'm here. I'm happy I'm here, but I'm really surprised it happened. Like, I mean, I thought if anything's going to happen for me, it's going to be next season now. So, you know, I have never moved as quick in my entire life over a position. So, it was yesterday, I think. Feels like a week ago, but yesterday's Zoom call. Here I am.
Martin, could you just pass to Mark behind you if that's all right? Thank you. Thanks.
And no problem. Never moved as quick in a job in my life. Contract drawn up, signed, sealed, delivered, off you go. Other things put in place. Carl couldn't get Sammy. Carl jumped in straight away. Robbie jumps. Robbie got called this morning. Was here. Came from Ireland by 2 this afternoon. It's not bad, is it?
Mark?
Sam, hi. I'm at the back here. When you took the job on at West Brom, you said you considered the health risks.
Yeah.
Has that been a factor this time?
No, because I'm triple. In fact, I've missed an injection today of COVID top up, so I'll have to get one. I'll have to get the club to get me one, so I can get my barcode up to speed. No, I need another jab and I'll be okay. I can't see any. That problem was that I didn't know I hadn't experienced. I thought I hadn't experienced COVID when I took over at West Brom, but when they took my blood test, they told me I had. So when I look back on my life, it was back before COVID had come into this country. I must have caught it in Dubai and was violently ill for about 4 weeks, where the doctors didn't know what was wrong with me and no antibiotic worked. And I thought I was in big trouble. And that gave me the antibodies after that, so I was a little bit more comfortable. And then obviously the jabs came out. But the problem with West Brom was the fact that you couldn't do your job properly. So, because you couldn't train the team properly, you couldn't travel properly, you couldn't build any team spirit, because you were eating in your room, in your hotel room, you were splitting meetings up, and it was a bad decision by me. It was hard enough taking a struggling team and getting it out of trouble, but it's, for me, nearly impossible by the fact that you couldn't create the environment and the team spirit that I would normally try and create to get a team out of trouble.
Thank you. All the best.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.